Okay, guys, as I reported to you, I launched AXXiom, which is a comparative religious channel, comparative religion channel, and philosophy channel. And so this is one of the tapes on there. I want to make a new one in time for Halloween. I want to talk about the origins and the misnomers and the bigotry that shaped people's perception of not only the Celts but Celtic tradition as satanic or as a lot darker than it was. So tracing Samhain, which is the name for Halloween, the original name, back to Celtic origins, the Celtic pagans would have merriment and practices of traditions we still see today, including putting pumpkins out as an appeasement to the mischievous fae or a little mischievous deities that might cause mischief or mayhem, as well as appeasing those that they lost that they might have wronged. They also celebrated those that they had lost that they had cherished on this day, and would sometimes do things like observe a silent meal in their honor, where they did a place setting for them. So a lot of offerings. This also probably has to do with the fact that it's a time of harvest. Samhain means summer's end, and so in the 1970s, a notably British Anglo-Saxon mistranslated the name and changed the entire context entirely, and we see the bigotry still remains in the ignorance of the people today. So I bring up that he was British Anglo-Saxon because this is a warring tribe to the Celts, for since the beginning the number one enemy to the number one enemy. Okay, so he goes there. He says that in the 1700s that Samhain is a religious practice. It's a god of the underworld, a lord of the underworld, who they're making human sacrifices to. Okay, not only is that not the case, they're actually celebrating summer's end, which is what it translates, but Samhain is not a name that is found in the vast majority of Celtic text. However, which there's not a lot of because we're Celts. However, the reference that there is of a character called Samhain is actually one of three brothers who lost a magical cow. Nothing to do with the Lord of the Underworld, notably pointing out that the underworld to the Celts was not hell, nor did it have a hell connotation. It was the Christians who adopted Celtic notions and turned them into something that they weren't, and so put this idea out there. So and there was nothing recorded about the human sacrifices or anything like this. More like sacrifices of gourds. Giving those over. Okay, as well as other traditions like going around the fire and putting rocks down and playing apple games and trying to see who your next lover is going to be and all this kind of like merriment and fun, horse racing and things like this. So time of community coming together. Not to do with satanic kind of slaughters or anything like this. So these notions, unfortunately, this bigotry continued on and seems to be part of the inspiration for someone who was hugely influential in American rhetoric about anti-Celtic notions, who is Jack Chick. Now, Chick, I want you to know, is an Anglo last name, so note those origins, though he was born in Oklahoma, Bible Belt. So in the Bible Belt, Jack decides that his calling is to make pamphlets as well as cartoon, do like racist and homophobic and sexual porn, spiritual porn is what it's been dubbed, pictures of very excited men watching half naked women burning on the pyre, witches, as well as biblical figures in women depicted in sexual ways. As a sociologist, I maintain my theory, which is that you find me the biggest anti-pagan and the biggest anti-witch person in the room, they're probably a pervert. Statistically would say, I'm giving it there's no stat on it for me, but I'd say over 90% chance that person's also the biggest pervert in the room. Why? Because anti-witch rhetoric as well as anti-pagan rhetoric is largely stemmed to sexist notions about women not being in power of their sexuality and men's fear about not being in power of their own. They don't want a woman to control it, so they blame her for boners and shit. Right, she beguiled me. Right. She had nothing better to do. So from afar, I assure you, I had a wet dream. It was her fault. She's like, who? Check out my other tapes on this, because on AXXiom, AXXiom, my comparative religious channel, I do talk a lot about the roots of this religious kind of bigotry that you see. So if you look at Jack's work, it unfortunately was hugely influential in the 80s. And he went on to cartoon for a long time and pass out pamphlets in the mall on a Saturday when he had nothing better to do, of where he played God in a most blasphemous fashion and rewrote history. Great. But unfortunately, we see that his discourse is still very much influential, like especially among the Bible Belt, which extends to other notions in America. So it's important to point out the ways in which he was lying. Jack went on to create, anti-Celtic, anti-pagan notions that weren't true, saying that they were depicting sacrifices to Satan. Obviously, Celtic paganism predates Satan entirely as a concept, so wouldn't be rooted in something that did not yet exist. So, anyways, Jack also went on to endorse very few people. Of the people he endorsed Johnny Todd, who ended up being a charlatan, going around calling everybody a Satanist and accusing them of sacrifices of humans where it wasn't true. And also Tony Alamo. Tony Alamo was a federal offender for child sex crimes, as well as a tax evader and somebody who robbed his dead wife's body. Good shit. Oh, by the way, he was a cult leader, as one does. Where can I sign up? You sound amazing. So Jack went on to not get an interview since 1974, and not have a published photo since his high school yearbook. Other than that, a total winner. Unfortunately, his racism still continues today, and we see misnotions of anti-Celtic propaganda, which largely has to do with fear of the Celts, because they are the underdog, they are the oppressed. And who are they oppressed by? No other than the Anglo-Saxons that produce the majority of the propaganda against them. The Celts are known as unruly warrior people who will tell you to go fuck yourself, or fuck you. And therein lies the problem, is their lack of subservience to the powers that be. Good on ya. So, happy Halloween. Please be safe at a time of COVID. Please watch your children so that Tony doesn't whisk them away. And have a good day. Just so you know, if you are of the Celtic pagan, as opposed to maybe the Wiccan persuasion of celebrating the holiday, it does last an entire week. And you can do it however you decide to celebrate. Happy Halloween and happy Samhain.